There was this boy, and he was always getting into trouble. His grandmother said, never, ever get food out of the garden. And no one answered. And then he heard a scream from his grandma's room.
Oh, shoot.
And then he heard, give me my big toe. And then he heard his footsteps getting closer and closer to his room. He pulled his head from the covers.
Quit that, Maddie.
And he looked. And there was a monster behind him!
Tell us more, tell us more.
That's the end of the story.
Tell us more, Dad.
Hey guys, what's up? Today I want to talk about stories and how those stories can make our magic more meaningful. Let's get into it. So the past few days I've went around and I've asked several people, what are some stories you remember and why do you think you remember those stories? Now these stories could have ranged from the past 10 years, 20 years, 30 years, up to like 40, 50 years. And the answer has been sort of interesting. Some of the times it's because the stories were funny. Other times it's they were scary. Occasionally it's been because it's about the family history and it makes that person proud. But I'm realizing there's a consistent theme here. All these stories were told by people they care about. These stories were more memorable because they cared about the person. Our audiences should care about what we're saying, but how do we do that? And I think telling honest, genuine stories is how we get there. Here's a list of 3 things I have. And I've been implementing all 3 of these things and they're working. They are genuinely working to create better, more memorable experiences for my audiences. Number 1, be honest. Maybe we should just be honest. Being honest means why are we doing these things? For instance, let's say that we've saw Triumph and we're in love with Triumph, the version we saw. Maybe the truth is we just say, I saw this piece of magic done by someone who I absolutely admire and I want to share that with you guys now. I've become obsessed with this. Can I share it with you guys? That's relatable and that's honest. For instance, I have a 2-phase ambitious card routine, go figure. But the routine I'm doing unique to me completely. It's about my favorite spell in Magic, and it's something I became obsessed with. But it's also around the idea that I use this spell to break away cloudy, sad days. Magic has always been there for me, especially in dark, sad times. This is the spell I would use to kind of distract myself. And so I'm telling the truth in somewhat metaphor and somewhat truth because the spell is actually how to complete a pass. So yeah, number 2, embody it. What does that mean exactly? It means that if you're telling a story, an actual story, embody the characters in that moment. If you're outraged, be outraged for a second. Don't overact it, but you can still embody what you're saying. But that also means in more traditional senses, if we're able to divine something because we touch someone, we need to have some sort of inner dialogue or inner truth that says why we can do that. And maybe it's as simple as through human connection, we're able to find out secrets about people or find out truths about people that they weren't comfortable to share with other people. And that's true, right? The people you love, you have a closer bond with. And sometimes that happens through a hug or through holding hands or just through like a friendly pat on the back. You become more comfortable with this person until they share with you things that they wouldn't share with anyone else. So this action of maybe touching someone or somehow getting information from them is a true thing. We're just creating a metaphor for that. It doesn't have to be that. I'm saying that's an example of what it can be. Garrett Thomas has an amazing amount of information on this, and he's just started a YouTube channel. And if you're not subscribed to him, or if you haven't watched some of those things, you need to go do that now. I'll actually have a link in the description for his latest video, The Keeper of Pink Elephants. You guys should definitely watch that, and it talks a lot about this inner truth, inner dialogue type of thing. And number 3, show, don't tell. John Wilson has told me this over and over, and it's taken some time for this to make sense. But when we show instead of telling, it leaves space for the audience to start to relate on a level that we could never understand. And it also allows space for that audience to care about what you're saying. They put their experiences and their truths and their honesty into what you're saying, and you suddenly become a more likable, more relatable person, and they care about you, and they're curious about what you're gonna do next. I think all of these things together can start to make your magic more memorable, more powerful, more relatable. So just like I talked about in the last episode, we have to sing our own songs, and I think it's a process to get there. It takes a lot of cover songs, it takes a lot of different things, but we'll slowly, piece by piece, get there. One of the important things about this is this thing, it's not easy. It's a harder path. If the goal is to be good, we have to give ourselves permission to fail. This is a process. We discover that maybe if we change a few words, it makes the whole experience richer. Maybe we're telling when we should be showing. So together, I think this is a process, and it's never a finished process. Every single piece of magic we do goes through this process in one way or another. It's just a matter of working it out piece by piece, getting the flight time, and just trying to relate to people. Again, it should never be about working the audience. It should be about being honest with them and being vulnerable and being willing to fail. I don't know. I think we'll see where it takes us. Thank you guys. See you next time.
Okay. It's a story that my Uncle Tom told us, and he'd be well over 100 years old now if he was still living. And he was a storyteller. We didn't watch TV. We listened to Uncle Tom's stories. So one he told me that I'll always remember, he was walking along a dirt road way out in the country, and he looked up on the porch, and there sat an old lady just rocking back and forth in her chair. And she was so old, he said the moss had already grown over her. She'd mossed over. She hadn't moved in so long. And he said she was crying, and he asked her, "Why are you crying?" And she said, "I'm crying because my mama slapped me." He said, "Your mama slapped you?" And this woman looked to be 100 years old, and he's thinking, how old is your mama? He didn't say it, but he was thinking. And he said, "Well, why? Could you tell me why your mom slapped you?" She said, "'Cause I sassed my grandma." And I laughed my head off. I said, "Grandma must have been 200 years old, and you sassed her." Okay, but he was full of stories like that. And then he had another one about.
I know everyone has different goals and everyone has different answers. Riz is calling. Let's see what Riz is doing. Hey man, how's it going?
Hey, pretty good. How you doing?
Doing pretty good. We're just doing a little bit of filming for that stories episode.
Oh, sweet.
Yeah. I think it's just gonna be I think the episode's gonna be really simple. I'm just going to talk about it's gonna be more of a question, like how do stories fit into what you're doing? That's kind of the question, and I'll let everyone answer that question for themselves.
Yeah, well, I mean, the most basic form of that, if you think about that, is somebody who hears about a Native American chief from years ago, and they hear about his story, and it brings a tear to their eye. They don't know this guy. They never met him before.
Yeah.
They don't know nothing about him, really. I mean, they only know what story was told through history, but somehow when they read about his story, it touches their heart, and they feel some closeness to him, as if he was right in front of them, and they don't know this man. I mean, they get full,
Yep. Is your
I gotta let you go. I gotta go in here and get my kids real fast.
All right, sounds good. Thanks for chatting, man.
Cool. Yep, no biggie. Thank you.
All right, see ya. Someone told me that the only reason we ever don't like something is because we don't understand it deeply enough. Maybe that's right. I owe get candles. Just riffing. Coffee's so good today. Oh, yes. Also, someone mailed this to me. I'm officially a Ravenclaw. Do you see that? Someone mailed this to me. Not sure who. No big deal. Just saying. I have no idea who mailed this to me, by the way. No clue whatsoever. No idea. All right, I'm going to go get some stuff, and we're going to keep on keeping on. Let's tell some stories.